Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to be talking about risk management. Now, on the one side, as you can see, we have prop firm risk management, and on the other side, we have day trading risk management. Now, you can probably read and see the differences for themselves, but the first one I want to go through is the day trading risk management. Now, when you're in a trade and you're managing your trade, let's say you have a 1 to 3, for example, there's multiple ways you can manage this. Personally, I am the type not to move to 1%. When I hit 2%, for example, if I hit 2% or 1% and it looks right and we're forming structures that I say, well, if we fall below this structure point, then the trade for me would fail anyway. Then that's where I will move my stop loss. And sometimes I like to chase it up. Other times I like to just leave the trade run as it is. The basic concept is if I made 2% plus, either that is my whole trade anyway. It would have hit TP by that point. Or if we form some sort of structure where I believe that if we break under, that the trade is going to reverse anyway, then that's where I will put my stop, which will most likely be break even. So it's very dependent on the trade, and you really have to adapt to the sort of trade that you're looking at. And again, this will come with experience. So don't get too hung up on it at the moment, but do have a sort of plan to move to break even at some point, because the last thing you want to do is be up 2% and then you check your phone an hour later just to realize you've been stopped out for a minus 1%, and you've turned in a 2% winning day into a negative 1% losing day. So have a strategy to move to break even, whether that's waiting for a certain point of structure on the 5-minute time frame to move your stop loss up. So instead of losing 1%, you're then losing 0.5% or 0.25%. And just kind of manage it in a sense, but don't, as soon as you go into profit, don't then immediately move your stop loss. Only move it when it makes sense to move it. When a point of structure has been formed above your entry point, that you can put your stop loss under that structure point and say to yourself, let's be honest, if price comes past this, yes, it can bounce off again, but the likelihood if it comes back to this level again, that it might just come down and hit the stop loss. So it's very up to you to gain that experience and have that forward testing that you can learn from. Like I say, I can learn and I can look, and if we form a 5-minute sort of structure and a certain point, I can put my stop loss there and happily say, again, to repeat myself, that if we come below this point, then I can understand that the trade is most likely going to go against my favor and we're going to lose. So I would rather take a break even than a minus 1% or a minus 2%. There is also a tactic of not moving the stop at all. Personally, I'm against this, simply for the fact that for the previous point, you could be up 2%. So why would you not move to break even and just hold on to worst case scenario? You make nothing, which is better than losing 1 or 2%, right? So it's up to you how to manage it, and it's up to you to test it and forward test it and see what works best for you. I think what beginners really get wrapped up on, I'm trying to go back a few years here now, is they move it too soon. Try not to get into the habit of moving your stop too soon, and then price comes down to a point where it probably would have come down anyway, and stops you out. So just be very vigilant when it comes to these things, that it makes sense to move your stop. If it doesn't make sense to actually move your stop loss because price could most definitely tap into this certain zone again, do not move your stop loss. Be patient with it. If it's right, it's right. That's fantastic. And hopefully price pushes up further in this example, and then you can move it. Then you can move your stop. But if it doesn't make sense, don't move your stop. All right. And never, ever move your stop loss further down, because that's just, that is the rookie mistake, and you're going to lose a lot more money by doing so. Now again, when a trade surpasses 3%, move to 2%, completely up to you how you want to manage it. I mean, a lot of people they only take 1 to 3 trades, like 1 to 3 risk to reward. It doesn't make sense to me, that, to be honest, because every scenario is going to hold up a different picture. You can come into a day and your risk to reward is going to be a 1 to 1 or a 1 to 1.7, or it could be a 1 to 5, depending on what the market is giving you. So to have a set, I only go for 1 to 3 risk to rewards, you're holding yourself back, and instead you're actually probably losing more trades than if you were just reading what the market was giving you, such as the 1 to 1.4, let's say, that you could take instead of, oh no, I'm only going for a 1 to 1.3, so I'm always going to put it at 1 to 1.3, a 1 to 1.3, sorry, risk to reward. So you have to read what the market's giving you. Like I say, we could have, it's rare, but we could have days where we're aiming for 1 to 6s. A lot of the times, and you've probably seen from the examples you've seen so far, that we get 1 to 2s, 1 to 1.5s, sometimes a 1 to 3. But to have a set, I only go for 1 to 3, then you're completely just holding yourself back. Because again, you're aiming too high in some scenarios, and in some scenarios you're aiming too low. You really just have to read what the market is giving you on that day. Like I say, I've given you the structure on how to aim for take profits and how to put your stop losses. So if it makes sense, like I say, some days we're going to get big risk to rewards, other days we're going to get small ones. Personally, I actually prefer the small ones because they're over quicker and it's less hassle. It's also less to manage as well. So you can imagine if you're aiming for a 1 to 6, because that's what the market is giving you, and that's what our stop losses and our take profit, and it's all made sense, and we're still looking at a 1 to 6. It's a lot more to manage. So let's say we're up 3%. You then have to make the conscious decision. Well, okay, do I move my stop into 2% profit, or do I just leave it at break even? And it's harder to manage when you have more on the table. So for me, it's a lot easier to manage a trade where I'm only aiming for 2%, because then I know as soon as I've gone to 1% and I'm still pushing upwards, maybe 1.25%, I can move to break even. And I can happily leave it there and say, well, if price comes down, I've not missed off on too much. Right? Oh no, I've missed off on 1%, 2%. I can live with that, move on to the next trade. But if you've pushed up to 5% and you've moved to break even, and price reverses all the way back to your break even, it's a little bit harder to take because obviously you've just lost 5% instead of 2%. So it's a bit of a, harder to take, but they're the lessons you're coming to learn. So in terms of day trading risk management, that is up to you. Like I said, there's a few options on the right that you can use and you can test out for yourself. Like I say, personally, if it makes sense to move the stop, I move the stop. It's not a set rule for me where it's like, well, if I'm past 1%, then I'm going to move it to break even. No, if we're if we're pushing past break even and it actually makes sense to move the stop because of the structure points formed on the 5-minute, then I'm going to move my stop. If it doesn't make sense to move my stop, even if we're past break even and we're still pushing up, I'm just not going to move my stop. Because if it doesn't make sense and if the structure isn't there and we're just consolidating, for example, then I'm just not going to move my stop. Moving on to prop firm risk management. So I'm sure we all know what prop firms are. Basically, you trade their money, but to do so, you have to pass 2 phases of the challenge, depending on what challenges you purchase. There is, I believe, a phase 1 challenge where you just make 10%. You pay a little more for the account, but if you make 10%, then you get the account straight away. Most cases, it's you have a 2-phase challenge. It keeps the cost down. First phase, you make 10%. Second phase, you need to make 5%. After you've done that and after you prove to them that you can trade and you can trade profitably, then they give you the account, and basically whatever profits you make on the account, they're going to give them profits to you. And depending on which prop firm you go to, I believe most take a 20% commission fee. So let's say you make £100, $100, and they would just take $20 from you. So when you withdraw it, you haven't made 100, you made 80, if that makes sense. Anyway, that is the prop firm risk management. So anyway, that's basically what a prop firm is, and it's a good way if you have low capital to get into trading, but it's also a blessing and a curse because people get wrapped up and buy too expensive accounts, and they think they're profitable when they are not. So I would always recommend buying the lowest account until you can pass them comfortably, and then you start buying the 200 grand accounts, the 100 grand accounts, and stuff like that. But start off with a 5 grand account, see what you can do, and trust me, your wallet will thank me for when you fail that £5,000 account that you paid like £50 for. It's a lot nicer hit than £200, that's for sure. Especially when you're losing it to emotion in the market. So it makes it a lot easier to take, and it's a lot easier to get started with another one. Just be careful that you do all your testing and journaling for the account you failed, because don't just hop right back into another one. Make sure you figure out what went wrong. Make sure you really understood how to be better the next time you go in, and make sure you're comfortable with your strategy, and you're not just doing it for a quick grab of money, because that's not going to get you anywhere. So let's say you bought your account, right? Basically, I have a few rules. Feel free to use them. And I used this in my early days as well, and I thought, it's good enough. I'll put it in the Discord. It's under the Forex Education, and it's prop firm risk management. So it is in the Discord, but I thought I'd get them both out on the screen for you today. And I've been using this for a while because it takes a long time to fail an account when you are strict with this rule. When you implement this. So anything above 0%, risk 2%. So let's say you're up 1% on the account, you're still going to risk 2%. You're up 2% on the account, you're going to risk another 2%, and then you'd be up 4%, etc. It's a good way, especially when we're pulling in 1 to 2s or 1 to 1.5 trades. It turns making 1.5% into 3%, 2% into 4%, and it just makes passing a challenge that much easier. Some people risk 3 or 4% a trade. I don't believe in that unless you're really, really comfortable in your strategy, and you can identify, which you will be able to do by with enough practice. You can identify a high quality setup, and then you can risk that 4%. And yeah, it depends how much money you have to chuck at prop firm accounts. These guys just chuck money at it. Basically, just shove 4% in till they pass both challenges, and then they trade seriously. And you can link up all your prop firm accounts. So when you take a trade on one, you take a trade on all of them. So that's how people are exploiting the system, sort of thing. If account is at 0%, risk 2%. So basically, fresh out the account, you're going to risk 2% on your first trade. And yeah, minus 2%, risk 2%. As soon as it goes to -4, this is when you start bringing down the risk. And you do this to hold on to the account as much as possible without it taking too long. You don't want to be at -4%, risking 0.25%, because it's going to take you forever to try crawl back up. But if you're at -5, risk 1%, -6, then you start risking 0.5%. -7%, you then risk another 0.5%, and then -8%, you start risking 0.25, -9%, again you're risking 0.25. So to get to 8%, -8% to -9, you have to take 4 losing trades. If you're following this plan, you're using this strategy, it's not uncommon to have 4 losing trades in any strategy you use. Not uncommon at all. But to have this many losses in a row, from going to using 2% to 0.25% to eventually reaching 10%, So using this method to get from 0% to negative 10%, which is the generic fail rate. Some do 8% and you fail and then take the account. A lot of them are still at 10%. As soon as you hit negative 10%, they're going to take the account from you, and that is challenge failed. So to get from 0% to negative 10, you'd have to take 16 losing trades in a row. If you're taking 16 losing trades in a row, there is something wrong. And that's why I put this time to forward test and journal before purchasing another funded account. Because if you're losing 16 trades in a row and you immediately go buy another funded account, there is a valuation that is not being happening and you're not being true to yourself. And there is nothing stopping you from just failing the next account that you try. And as much as annoying it is to, fail an account and not be able to go back into one because that there's other stuff you need to work on before you just buy another account. So just make sure you're doing right by not buying another account. Hopefully that makes sense. I have it structured like this because after 16, like I say, it's a big slap in the face. If you've lost 16%, if you stayed true to the risk management plan, if you've stayed true to it and you still lose the account, then there is you can genuinely tell yourself there is something I need to work on. If you have 2% risk for all of them, you could have just been unfortunate and had that many losing trades. To have 16 losing trades in a row is different from losing 6 in a row. It really is. So I have this structure just to make sure that if there is something wrong, hopefully it comes out within one of the losses. If not, it should come out after you do some evaluation after losing 16 trades in a row. So that's why I have it like this. Feel free to use it. I would advise using this, or at least make your own. Maybe give yourself some more trades. So maybe instead of 1%, risk 0.5. And then on the 0.5 option, such as -6, use 0.25 instead. Just give yourself more possibilities to be in a trade and to have that experience if you are going to go with a prop firm challenge. And again, don't be buying a really expensive challenge. You do not need it. Prove to yourself that you can do it and buy the cheapest account possible. And yeah, just go from there. But this, I'd say this is all you need. In terms of a risk management for prop firm, I'd say 16 is enough. If you want more, feel free to change it more. Take this seriously, guys. Don't just be risking 2% left, right, and centre, especially not when you're at -7, just because you can't be asked. To risk 0.5%. Alright, stick true to the plan, and if you can do that and you can show that discipline, it's going to reflect in your trading as well. So if you half-ass it, you're half-assing your entire trading career basically. You're putting it back, you're delaying your trading career just because you can't be asked. And you may get lucky and that trade might win where you're risking 2% at -7. And unfortunately, that's probably one of the worst things that can happen, because then you get into that habit and you think, well, it worked before, it will work again, and then you get humbled, and then you've lost 4 more prop firm accounts. Take it seriously, guys. This is a career, this is a business. This is your business, your future. Take it seriously, and you will see the results. As soon as you start playing around with it and can't be asked because you're at negative something, and you can't be asked, so you're just going to full port the account. And then you get slapped in reality. Oh, I failed the account again. And then you're in that same loop. Let me buy another one. You full port it. Let me buy another one. You full port it, and then you quit. Take it. If you want this to work, you have to take it seriously. All right. You have to take it seriously. As soon as you start messing around, you're delaying your future. You're delaying your dreams. You're delaying your success. Take it seriously, please, guys. So this is what I have for risk management. Hopefully that's helped, and hopefully that's cleared up a few things. Like I say, take it seriously. This is your future, not mine. So it's up to you how to take it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.